Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Bluebeard Bard. This is the Songwriter Studio. We got David Von Beahm in the studio. We're going to talk about his track Half Life. I'm a singer-songwriter. I got music. If you want to hear it, you can check out my links up at the top of the screen. David's links are down at the bottom of the screen. We're going to hear his music in a little bit, and let's get into it. How you doing, David?
I'm doing all right, Bluebeard. How's it going?
It's going all right, man. I really appreciate you coming on, especially in the midst of your, I don't want to say blowing up because we all dream of blowing up, like blowing up. But you're having kind of a moment right now, aren't you? You're trending and you're
It's been a
how
week.
how's that feel?
It's a little awkward to be honest. It's I guess a little bit like imposter syndrome, I guess.
Yeah,
Kind of
I
like
was gonna say, do you feel like you deserve it? Because it would be easy for me to feel like I don't deserve it. I think you do deserve it. You got it because you've been hustling. You got a good product, and you've been working hard to get it out there. You're visible, you're interacting, etc. So shit, man, good for you. There are going to be people who hate on you, who are jealous, but no, I'm team Von Beam. Let's go
I
all the way to the
appreciate it.
top.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um yeah, no, I mean it's because I'm part of NAS and New Artist Spotlight, and they picked this song that we're talking about tonight for their song of the week, and it's just like everywhere I look, every single day, it's like being shared, and it's a little surreal. It's
yeah,
cool because I mean, like you said, I have been kind of working pretty hard, especially for this album, um, trying to promote it and get it out there, and I mean, it does seem like it's paying off. It's just awkward. Like, there's a part of me that's like it's too much all at the same time, and
yeah,
that kind of
sure.
like it's like I'm a slow burn kind of person.
Well, I'm sorry we jumped right into the meaty stuff, into the juicy stuff. I figured the people watching would want to know because I think it's something we all kind of imagine happening for ourselves. That's the version instead of getting discovered by a record label today, we want to go viral because that's kind of our current version of getting discovered, getting out there. And yeah, have you had a lot of sales? Has it turned out, in a concrete way to be good, or is this just a more in your climb to the top, do you think?
I'm trying to approach it more as a climb,
Yeah,
and again, just kind of appreciating it while it's there,
yeah,
because you just never know when it hits a plateau or just starts to go back down again. But it's nice to enjoy things while things are kind of like blowing up
right
around you,
on.
I guess.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool. That's cool. Well, once again, good for you. And yeah, I hope it keeps going for you. So let's see. The first question I usually ask people if they haven't just been blowing the fuck up in the scene is how did you get into songwriting? What was the first song that you wrote? How old were you? Was it about a girl? Was it about a guy? Was it about a dog? Was it, tell me about it.
um, Funny enough, I was around 13 years old. I started playing guitar when I was like 11 or 12, and I tried my hand at something. It wasn't. I guess it's kind of like relatable to kind of what I write about now. Very philosophical. The song. I never did anything with it. I just remember that the song was called "Why," and it's just I think it was just me questioning everything, which I kind of still do to this day. And I don't even remember like if I put any chords to it. Just it was like a lyrical experiment
Okay.
just to see if I could do it back then.
Yeah, sure.
Um, when I was and then we kind of I got some friends together. We were like in middle school, and we started playing some cover songs. Like there was like I think we played stuff by The Cure. We played some U2 stuff. And then we got in high school and we all went separate ways. And then a couple of us came back together. And I think my first real song that we recorded um, in high school, I was in a band. We called it the Hourglass. which is funny because I didn't realize until later that like I think it was Dwayne Allman had a side project called The Hourglass like many years later.
Oh,
Uh,
fuck Dwayne Allman. Don't worry about him.
right.
We're on the Von
Um,
Beam train. Hourglass, baby.
exactly, exactly. And it was a song called 15, I think. And we recorded it. We recorded like a 4 song EP by some guy that met our bass player at a record show at a local hotel at a record show, and he came back. He's
Okay,
like, I got all this information, and so we actually went and recorded when we were like 16 years old.
cool. That's awesome, man. I'm curious first, this song, why? Was it big questions about the world? Like, why was it like in the vein of Tracy Chapman, why are the missiles called peacekeepers when they're aimed to kill? Or was it like, why can't I stay up late at night when
It was definitely the Tracy Chapman sort of thing. It was
yeah,
definitely I think it was more pondering like, and it's still, I mean, I have an album called Existence, and I think I was thinking about those things even back when I was that young.
yeah,
Like,
sure.
what is all of this? Why does anything or everything exist, And I was even pondering those things at such a young age.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting thing that, I mean it I think it's one of those duh things, one of those obvious things once you think about it, that people who are, whether it's they're a moody person or they're an introspective person or they're whatever they are as an adult, there was some element of that in them as a kid. So there was some little 2-year-old kid, some 5-year-old kid, some 7-year-old kid walking around with David Von Beam brain, thinking about whatever you think about. Same thing with any person who has a little bit of a different viewpoint. And as kids, we don't realize how immature and kind of naive we are, and we just take a swing. And I remember the same thing. My first song that I wrote was when we left. We moved away from California. I wrote a song called "Leaving California," and it was very earnest and very sincere. And I didn't think it was anything great. I guess back then I was too young. It was a genuine emotional outpouring of leaving my home that I had lived in for a long time. So I'm glad to say,
Well, that's a big thing.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
how old were you back then?
That's a good question. I think about 12, 13, probably something like that, in that
That's a
range.
big change.
Yeah, it
That's a
was, I
very
think,
big change.
yeah, eighth grade, seventh, eighth grade. But it was, I'm glad that for a lot of people, I can see, and let me ask you this question. When you first decided, I am going to write a song, were you dreaming rock and roll dreams, or did you just have these questions burning in you, or were you thinking about a band so you could impress someone in your class, or did you have a concrete thing you were thinking about, or do you remember?
Uh, I mean, I knew I wanted to always be a musician in some capacity throughout all my years. It's just one of those things that burns inside of you. If you are a musician, you understand it. If you're not a musician, I'm not sure it can ever be explained to you. Um, I did have dreams of wanting to like play live, go on tour, all of those things as a teenager because I was hugely influenced by a lot of bands, and I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah,
And I didn't write songs just because of that, because it's like they have to mean something.
yeah,
Um, and and in order to do that, you have to also be a bit introspective, self-reflective, um, observant. Um, and I guess I also didn't feel like I fit in with a lot of the people that I was going to school with. I felt that a lot of them just accepted the way things were. They did as they were told. Um, not to say that I was, of a criminal mind or something
no,
like that.
hey, man, I know exactly what you're saying. I was that same kind of kid. There was a certain, I remember it was very weird. I was an all American boy up until like age 16 or so. I was in all the clubs, I did all the sports, all da, 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 da. And then I don't know if it was puberty and my first taste of depression. and whatever else. But all of a sudden, I felt all the things that you're talking about, you know, not feeling like I fit in, not feeling like other people saw the things that I saw, feeling like things were bullshit in a way that I couldn't and wasn't willing to deal with. And yeah, I don't know, man. But you mentioned musical influences. What would you say was your biggest musical influence as a young man? Not now, because we'll talk about that more when we get into your song that we're going to share. But as a kid, what was young David listening to?
Funnily enough, I listen to a lot of the same music now. I'm still very much connected to that, but a lot of it was kind of like the post-punk, new wave sort of genre. Groups like Joy Division, New Order, Susie and the Banshees, The Cure, Public Image Limited,
Okay,
Depeche Mode,
cool,
um,
pretty
Nine
cool
Inch
kid.
Nails. Yeah, yeah. My first concert was Nine Inch Nails, so
Oh, good deal. That's my wife is a big Nine Inch Nails fan. So
rock on, rock on.
yeah,
Saw him in '94 with Marilyn Manson back then. I was like 15, I think.
yeah. And do you think this group of influences you have, I could try to put them all in a rough box, but anyone listening can imagine the same box I'm imagining. How did that influence your first song, do you think? Do you think you tried to write like Joy Division, or did you try to write like, you know, were you, did you always know who David Von Beam was, or were you early on? Because I don't think, for me personally, and this is just kind of lucky for me, I don't have much of an urge to imitate.
Hmm.
It's easy for me to find my own voice. A lot of people struggle with that. Was that easy for you? Was it difficult for you?
Well, I think at the time it was just three of us. So it was really just me playing chords to some lyrics that I wrote.
Okay.
And however that sounded, it was a little bit, it was also at the time that grunge was coming out. So there was like and not understanding exactly how to use some of my pedals and amp settings and stuff.
All right.
So it kind of just, I think it was probably a combination between kind of like a post-punk sound with like a little bit of grunge with it. Not quite Joy Division, but not quite Nirvana sort of thing.
Okay.
Um, I think as I've grown as a musician, I've started to understand about layering and musicality. And obviously now, since like it's just me doing it and I'm not in a band, I kind of there's a part of me that feels not too constrained by like thinking like, oh, I have to write it for, you know, a three piece or a five-piece sort of thing. I
Sure.
just kind of write whatever comes out of me these days. Um, because I don't worry about playing live. I would love to, but I don't worry about that right now.
Yeah. Right on. That's cool. How about uh, as you got older, do you think your musical tastes have changed? You said you listened to mainly the same stuff. Would a song that you wrote as a young man be, because some people get three chords and stick with it. Some people develop as songwriters, you know, and by the end they're trying to be the Beatles. They're using color chords and all sorts of dominant seven, diminished fifth, augmented fourth, you know, whatever. I don't know.
I've done that occasionally as I've expanded. Um, Now, when I was in high school, I was like no Zeppelin, no like no, it was like
Okay.
sacrilege. I was strictly. And then as I grew older, I did start to incorporate stuff like the Doors and more '60s stuff,
Okay.
um, the Beatles, Zeppelin, Sabbath. Um, those types of groups. And I remember being in the '90s, and because I was in the middle of it, I completely also rejected a lot of the grunge kind of like I couldn't stand Pro Jam, I couldn't stand Soundgarden because everybody else was into it. Now I did like Nirvana, um, but a lot of the other groups, like because they were so popular at the time, I just rejected it.
I
Now,
got you.
as I've gotten older, I've started to appreciate some aspects of those bands a little bit more. Um, in the '90s, if there was a new group, I was still kind of connected to some of the things that at least sounded like the stuff from like the earlier '80s. Like Garbage was cool to me. But like I knew Butch Vig also recorded Nevermind, and so there was some sort of correlation with that. I loved Radiohead when they came out, because they were more similar to that sort of sound rather than um, like Pearl Jam or something, which to me at the time, I thought was more of a throwback to like the '70s rock sort of sound, and
Sure.
I just flat out rejected it back then,
I
and
gotcha.
I've become a lot more comfortable with it these days, and I've had it has expanded my musical vocabulary, so to speak.
Yeah, I do an exercise sometimes, a little, maybe a little tip for people who ever get stuck musically is I'll just pick a song that inspires me, whether it can be any band that you have some sheet music for, take the chords, put them on note cards, mix them up, and lay them down in random order and play it, see what it sounds like. Lift
Right now, that's
the
a great
Yeah,
exercise.
lift the chords from something you know they're going to work together. And obviously, you can add, you can subtract, you can do whatever. It's not like a rule where you got to do what you got to do this, but it's just a way to get you started. And you'll find that certain artists do the same thing over and over again. They'll do the same thing in different keys, or they'll make the same kind of movement, or
Hmm.
they'll do because we're all guilty of this type of thing, finding something we like and using it repeatedly. At least I feel I am. I don't know. How about
It's
you?
it's I have found out that like I can plagiarize myself. Um, Amanda, my partner in crime, she did point out that there was the B side to the Let the Rain Fall single. She's like, well, that's great. You just rewrote this other song that you did. I'm like, oh well, it's different words. It's like I'm
Yeah,
not too worried about it.
yeah. That's the danger of
Um,
having someone know your catalog in a deep
exactly,
way.
exactly. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, well, all as John Lennon said, all art is rehash, is imitation, you know,
right?
and all we're doing is putting things together in a different way, and I feel like if anything is fair game, it's your own work and the things that you've discovered, and most people are not gonna pick up on if you use the same chords in multiple songs, because Jesus, 145 minor six, how many albums are there that
It's
just that the whole
exactly,
way through?
exactly,
You know, I know
absolutely.
I should. Well, we're gonna get to your song in a second here. We're up to 17 minutes. Uh, but I was gonna ask, do you think about theory when you are writing your parts? Because I looked at the chords that you sent me, and there was one part, the second bridge, where you just hit a 1 4 5. But other than
Hmm.
that, you were hitting a major two, major three. Those are usually minor chords. You were doing some interesting stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, there's some like add nines in there.
yeah,
I just kind of put the basics of the chords in there, but yeah,
okay.
honestly, like no, I kind of just do what sounds good. I'll kind of start with like the basic chord structure, just the regular major and minors, and then if I feel like I can embellish it a little bit, or especially with this song, instead of playing chords for the main line, I kind of go through an arpeggio. Um, for like the main verse parts. Um, and I think there's like an E add nine and then a six in there and then a minor seventh
Okay.
um, sort of thing. So,
Cool.
but that's how it's going through the arpeggio where I'm like kind of basing that off of what the root chords would have been.
Okay. And when you write a song, what order do you write it in? Do you write it all together all at once, or do you section it off? What
No, well, yeah, I typically when I start writing, whether if it's coming from a synth part or a guitar line or a bass line, if I remember correctly, I think I started writing this song on the bass, um,
okay.
and then added like the guitar to it. But I like to before I go to record sit down with the guitar and I have the arrangement done before I start recording it.
Okay, that's
Um,
interesting. That's
because I like to know where it's going. Um, that being said, I also record and do all of the music before I start writing the lyrics. I have never, since I started doing this, the David Von Beam solo stuff, I have
yeah.
never written words and then created the song around it.
Oh, that's interesting, man.
Normally, I let the music and the mood of it kind of dictate where it should go. It kind of pulls words out of me.
I gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, I have a kind of a technique where like I'm not afraid to say, and I'm public about the fact that I have a bipolar 2 diagnosis. I'm on medication for it. I don't run naked through the streets or anything like that. I just spend a little more money than I should, and I'm really creative, and I don't sleep very much, and so it's just bipolar 2. It's not bipolar 1. I'm okay.
Right.
But I write a lot. I have a lot of stuff on my hard drive. I've got a lot of sets of lyrics, a lot of guitar riffs, a lot of whatever. And for me, if I come up with something that I want to write with, I'll do kind of what you're saying. I'll look at the lyrics and say, all right, this is a melancholy song. What parts
Hmm.
do I have that are melancholy? Go into my hard drive and I'll literally have a few that are labeled melancholy 1, melancholy 2, and I'll be like, "Ooh, melancholy 3, it's just right. Let me figure out what that was. I'll figure it back out and then I'll use
Hmm.
that. Um, I think some people might think that that was paint by numbers songwriting, but for me, it's
It's that, again. There's no rules.
and
It's
that's what I love about it is we're getting to the same place, right? And using different techniques. And I don't know, what do you think? Have you interacted with other songwriters who write differently, and how do you think your MO affects your finished product? Like, do you ever worry? Because I worry sometimes. Usually, I write my lyrics separate from my melody, and then I bring them together, like I'm describing. Uh,
mhm.
do you ever worry that your lyrics are too wordy, for example, that when you sing them, they don't sound as good as you thought they were going to? And then do you change them, or do you just say, fuck it, I'm going to make it work? Or.
No, I will start, and I do kind of sit down sometimes, even when I'm not writing like some sort of vocal line or like, oh, that's a great idea, and I'll write it down and save it for later. Sometimes I pull them out. Other times I let them sit. Um, but I, as I'm singing, like I'll start writing it, I'll listen to it, play it in the car, certain like, and I'll start hearing like a line over and over and over again. I'm like, well, that has to be in there now.
Okay.
But when you actually go to sing it, certain phrases, certain syllables don't line up with,
Sure.
because I also sometimes write in odd time signatures,
Okay.
um, and they don't always work in reality the way that you think that they're going to work in your head.
What are you
So
going
yeah,
to
you
do?
have sometimes like I'm scratching out words and then I type it up again, or and yeah, they do kind of change and evolve. Um, Sometimes I just get hung up on, I'm like, I don't like this word. I like what the phrase is trying to say, but I can't stand this word. And then I have to like, I'll use a thesaurus or something
Yeah,
like that, and
sure.
like, to figure out the actual like a better word for the meaning that I'm trying to convey.
Sure.
You know, I like my words to sound a little bit more intelligent. I don't
You're
prescribe to the
you're
I
yeah, you're not Iggy Pop.
right, and it's like I also like, I mean, us as a society have become so dumbed down.
Yeah.
I don't want to further contribute to that.
Sure, sure. All right, I got a bunch of questions, but we are about 25 minutes in. We should play the song because otherwise the people are going to be like, I came on here to hear this song. When are we going to hear it? You're going to hear it right now, people. So let's see, share sound. Make sure I got the right window. Share it. There we go. All right. And here we go. We got Half Life from David Von Beam. Hope you all dig it. All right. Rock and roll. All right, great song. That's Half Life. You've been hearing all about it. If you haven't heard it yet, now you have. David, tell us what was, I don't know, in 100 words or less, what's this song about? What's the gist? I mean, I know what I think it's about, and I'll tell you my opinion. It's but you tell me.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of this album was written right after I kind of came off of the last album, which was in 2024, Taking Back Time, and I had just turned 45. And middle of the decade, it's like it's really weird for me. I normally have like some sort of crisis at the middle of the decade, like 45, 35. I'm sure I'll have one at 55. More so than when I get to be that decade. Um, because I guess it is the realization is like, God, I'm closer to 50 than I am 40 now.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, and as I was getting, I'm like, God, I'm like hitting midlife, and I'm supposed to have this midlife crisis and whatnot. Um, and I kind of, I guess, I did have a bit of a reflection period. Um, and really, what this song is about is kind of like, it's really, to put it, I guess, kind of poetically, it's the ghost of a life that I never lived.
okay,
And look,
that's
looking
nice.
back, looking back and understanding the all the dreams and the passions I had when I was that teenager and into my 20s, and I still played in bands in my 20s, and we played some really cool gigs, so it's not like I never got a chance to do anything that I wanted to do. But um, moving on through life and, you know, um, kind of making compromises for out of fear, out of stability, out of responsibility, um, and how you know your passions change over time just because of the life that you ended up in rather than the life that you wanted when you were younger. Um,
Sure.
when you're younger, you do have a lot of fire, a lot of passion. You can take risks when you're younger. Um, I'm a single dad. I can't really um, take certain risks that I was able to do when I was younger. For the sole purpose that, if I fail, I'm dragging my kid down too, and it's like that's
Yeah.
not something that I really want to. It's not only my life anymore.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really kind of coming to terms with the life you ended up leading versus the life that you thought you wanted many years ago, and reconciling that, and really kind of just trying to it's more just a reflection of. And I think I was a little bit angrier that I ended up where I ended up in life, just because as an artist and a musician, you know being in a regimented sort of life where you're having to wake up at 5 a.m. and drag yourself to a job every single day, you know, for corporate America, there's a certain sense where you feel that you've compromised yourself, and there
Yeah.
is that anger that you weren't able to accomplish some of the things that you wish you were able to accomplish.
This is really good stuff, man. I resonate with about 99% of what you're saying. The only part I can't really relate to is being in the corporate rat race, because fortunately I've been able to avoid that. But I understand what it's like having people that you're responsible for. I understand what it's like feeling that you should have got this done at a younger age, and like now it's harder. It's only gotten harder, and you haven't made it yet. So how do you keep that fire going? How do you
Absolutely,
stay?
precisely.
You got to love it, I guess. Is that the answer, that you just genuinely got to love it?
And I think that that's it. Yeah, you have to. I imagining my life without music to me is not life at all. So even though it's harder these days to find the time to do it, which is probably why it takes me 2 years to release an album at this point.
Sure.
Um, but I want to make sure that I do it right. I want to make sure it sounds right to me. I want to make sure that I feel good about it before I put it out there. And it does. It takes time. Um, and I think that anybody that is our age still trying to do this is obviously doing it because they love it.
Yeah.
It's a part of them. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gotta be. It's if you're what I tell people is if you're trying to get famous, there are easier ways to get famous. If you're trying
Oh
to
yeah,
make money, there are easier ways to make money. But if you love music, there's nothing else you can do but make music. It's
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And it's like that's and just sharing it with the world. I mean, there is a certain point where you somebody somewhere might need to hear the song that you wrote. To hold it in. No, I mean this is not if you don't know how to do it or release it. There's people out there that can help you do that.
yeah,
But I think the people that kind of just like I'm not going to release it because I just don't want to release it. Well, you might be holding on to something that might be saving somebody else's life.
sure,
And
absolutely,
I mean that's a lot of responsibility, and maybe that's a little bit difficult for somebody to kind of imagine. But think about like the music that saved your life, that made life worth living. You could also be that for somebody.
yeah, absolutely. That's a great ambition and a great real possibility, especially with the interconnectedness of the internet and the way that we can connect with fans, the way we can connect with other musicians, just through this, sitting down and having an hour-long conversation with a stranger about something we both love, you know, we're
Right,
both we're
right.
we're both gonna probably finish this up and go want to write something or go want to do we're going to be
Right.
motivated, be in the headspace, be in the zone. um, and yeah, I think it's a great thing to be able to have influence over other people, positive influence. And I take positive influence from other people, especially when I see people grinding and still doing it. It's like, all right, so and so got up and did it this morning, so and so put out another album, I can keep up, I can do this. It's inspiring. It can be intimidating, I guess, too, when you deign to compare yourself to the people who are doing their best work. But if you want to be your best, that's what you got to do. You got to rise to the occasion.
And everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
I mean, I look at like my first album, and I had been playing music. I released my first David Von Beahm album in 2018, but I had been writing and playing music years before that.
Sure.
And I still go back and listen to some, like, if I go back and listen to it, I'm like, oh, the production on this is
Yeah.
awful. But I also think at the time, I'm like, I was recording it on a Tascam Studio,
Yeah,
and I've
sure.
kind of built things up since then. So it's a process, and you shouldn't beat yourself up if it doesn't if the first thing that you do isn't exactly it. Everybody's got to learn and everybody's got to grow, and it doesn't matter if it's music. It's with anything that you got to
Oh,
learn, what martial arts or painting. You
yes.
know,
That's
it's
sorry, I'm
it's
interrupting you to
growth.
say
No,
that.
no worries. It's a growth thing.
Yeah, those are wise words. Those are very wise words. And I think it's a big thing for anybody to learn that if something comes natural to you, that's fun and good, and you should do those things because you maybe will have a better chance of excelling at them. But if you love something, even if it's difficult in the beginning, this is something that I kind of had to learn, that because I was in the headspace of if it comes natural to me, that's where I'm going to excel the most because I've already got a sort of a knack, a gift, so I'm going to pursue that. But there are certain parts of the music making, uh, the songwriting process that I was kind of intimidated by, that I wasn't very good at, and I just stayed away from them for the longest time. And now I'm realizing that with practice, one becomes better at those things. One can grow, And the more songs you write, if you think the first song you ever wrote is the best song you ever wrote, then you're not doing it right. You're not
Right.
you're not stretching, you're not pushing yourself. Um, I don't know. How hard was it to choose this song as the song? I know you considered a couple different songs, but I don't know what went on in your head before that decision. Was it just that this is something you're promoting right now, or is this a good
No,
representation of the catalog?
as I think this one represents more what I sound like overall. I think it is a better representation of the album as a whole, as to what it's trying to say and be thematically. The fact that this song kind of got blown up over the week was just pure coincidence because I chose this before that all happened.
Sure.
Um, so yeah, I think really that's what it boiled down to is when I was really thinking about it, and you mentioned when you got back to me for is like, yeah, this is something that is a little bit more all encompassing. So
Cool. Cool. One thing in particular I noticed about this song, and maybe I haven't dug deep enough into your catalog to know if this is you as an artist or not, but there was no traditional hook in this song. You have not written a pop song here,
no,
Mr. Von Beam. Uh,
uh,
of
I
course,
think
the world needs songs that aren't pop songs. So why was that choice made, and is that just who you are as an artist?
um, I think my best songs don't fall into that verse chorus sort of thing.
Okay.
I do have them. I like to experiment with different formats. I like there's a song off the fourth album. It's the opener, and it's the same thing over and over and over again. And and it's about 5 minutes long. But my challenge to myself was, how do I make it interesting? How do I change parts over top of the overall,
Yeah.
ongoing um, line, whether it be changing up the chord structure, whether it be adding a synth line or a melodic line, adding, what can I, and that was the challenge that I made myself in order to, how do I make this interesting when I know I'm doing this, ultimately I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, I think this song, it was just the hook was to me the guitar line between the verses.
Sure.
I
I
kind of
was
I kind of looked at that as kind of like the chorus, where it's like, okay, this is it builds up between the verses, and then it goes into kind of like a two bridge parts. Um, it just kind of worked that way.
Yeah, it works.
Um,
It works well. Let me say that the lack of a traditional hook doesn't hurt the song. Uh, and I was going to ask you about the guitar line between the lyrical parts because when I produce my songs, I'm always afraid of having too big a gap between the lyrics. I sometimes don't trust my listeners enough that they're going to
right.
stick with me. I'm like, I got to get to the next part. Um, did it take time for you to have confidence that you could do that? Because you said earlier that you arrange before you incorporate lyrics. So how does that all
Yeah.
come together?
Um, honestly, that was a decision as I was recording and mixing, and realized that um, I saw the space as in my DAW, digital audio workstation. For those
Yeah,
that don't know, I think most people know.
yeah.
Um, I was like, as I was building it, I'm like, okay, lyrics can go here, lyrics can go here, and then I gave myself enough space for the lyrics by putting the guitar line in.
Okay, cool.
Um, and some of it like is once I have like the basic tracks in, sometimes I'm just kind of I'll just sit down with a guitar and just
Just
play
noodle.
random stuff over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's basically like I'm giving myself my own backing tracks, and then when I'm like, oh, that sounds cool, um, because I mean that main hook, that main guitar line, it's not very complicated. It's not a complex part, but it's melodic
Yeah.
and it's catchy and it's I find sometimes that it's easier to build a lot of simplicity or a lot of simple parts on top of each other and blend them together. um it's not to say I haven't had very shreddy wailing type
Yeah.
guitar parts in some of my stuff. They're there, but I also don't want to overshadow certain things. It didn't call for it. It didn't call for it, so I didn't do it
Sure.
that way. I wanted it a lot simpler, and it worked.
Yeah, it worked very well. Your vocals sounded really good in this. I want to ask you about your singing. Uh, do you sing every song with the same idea in mind of your voice? Is there a David Von Beam sound, or are you flexible enough to, sing this one that way? Because for me, I just sing like myself. And my second question is, how do you get the confidence to sing full voice? Where did you learn to sing? Did you come up singing? Do you take voice lessons, or do you just learn one day that you could do it?
I just learned one day I could do it. Well, when I was in high school, every all the groups that I tended to listen to were British. So when I sang, I tended to sing with a British accent.
I
Um,
was gonna say there was a bit of that Brit pop sound in the voice. There was no British accent. I don't wanna
yeah,
accuse you of that.
I think I've tried to pull that back a little bit. I mean, even to this day, this song, like I remember there was it's in the first verse. Um, it's the line, slippery sneaking, slyly stealing almost all of my light. When I had Amanda, my partner, she was listening to it. Um, I kept pulling a light, and she's like, "You got to stop that." And I was just like, "I can't do it. I can't do it. You don't get it." And then finally, like just one afternoon, I just came in and I'm like, "Lie." I don't know how I just did it,
Yeah.
and it worked. Um, but I think one of the toughest. I look at myself as a guitarist first and foremost.
Okay.
That was the instrument I learned on. Um, Everything has been kind of me teaching myself other instruments from what I've learned on guitar.
Okay.
So, um, to get back to your initial question, I I have a low register, I have a medium register, and then I have like a high register that I'll do from time to time. That is mostly kind of like in the background. So there's typically either going to be a low or kind of just my normal, um, my main octave singing voice.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, I guess some people, like, especially when I do like the lower kind of songs, like people say it sounds a little bit like Bowie-esque. Um, Maybe like some Peter Murphy from Bauhaus.
Okay.
They both sound very similar. Um, but yeah, I think that's probably been one of the hardest things to work on over the years is and finding my own voice.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing to do. Was there a moment that happened? Do you remember? Were you in the shower? Were you in the locker room? Were you in the car? What
No,
what
because
perfect acoustic environment rang in your ears when you heard your voice and the way you
it
liked
was
it?
if anything, it was probably in the car because that's when I listen to, especially going to and from work, is when I tend to listen to it a lot and try to find, a melody line or something where I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, okay, that works, and I've got to remember how to do it. Um, I think that I had to finally realize that there's probably something because I would try to do some things that I just couldn't do, and I think also a lot of it is understanding my own vocal limitations as well.
Yeah. Do you ever This is something that happens to me. I don't know if you've dealt with this, but do you ever write a melody when you're in like really good voice and it takes you up to the top of what you can hit. And then
Yes.
you maybe
Yes.
have a gig or you just have recording scheduled or whatever, and you're not in very good voice and you end up sounding like hell. I mean,
Yes. Yes. Especially there was a song that I did for uh Tim Woodruff. I think it's on his latest album.
okay.
And I remember I had to tell him like because I ended up getting laryngitis like right before I was about ready to like put some vocals on it, and I couldn't do it as much as I tried. And I think that happened a couple other times with some of the songs that I was trying to sing, um, where I just couldn't do the melody in my head because of for whatever reason, being sick or
Yeah.
just, the temperature was off that day.
One thing I wanted to touch on was I think a couple times at least you've mentioned the idea of challenging yourself. You've referred to something not as in like I set out to challenge, but you have said like the challenge was to write this part, this repeated part to make it not sound repeated, or the challenge was to how important is it to challenge yourself to as you're
Uh,
because for me, well, let me give you my answer first. Sorry. Let me ask a question, then
okay.
answer it, because that's a cool thing to do. I think, I think that for us getting older and keeping the fire alive, keeping it interesting, that challenge is hugely important.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
okay? Same for
That is
you?
a huge part of it. Because it is, I know that I can do certain things and I can do certain things well. Um, it gets boring after a while, you know. Sometimes to challenge yourself is to make things interesting. It is to and there's also a certain amount of growth that comes through that as well.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to monitor the chat and I'm not very good at multitasking. But somebody wants to
Okay.
know, do you do one takes or whole songs with your vocals? Do you do individual verses? That's a great question. Do you punch in? And if so, how often? And how hard was it to learn to punch in if you did? Because for me, it was a skill that I had to learn. I thought it would be easy and it wasn't.
Um, Simple answer is yes, all of
Okay.
that. I think I think this song in particular, there is a lot of like parts that are kind of like pieced together from different takes. I tend to want to, if I do that, there's at least a track that once I've gotten comfortable and I kind of relegate them to backing tracks where I want to have one main go all over the entire thing. Sometimes it doesn't work because I want to have like a trail, like ending of a verse going into the chorus, and there's no way around that.
Sure.
You got to do
Yeah,
two different parts.
of course.
Um, but if it works, I mean, a lot of times, I guess doing it for a recording now. I mean, if I was to do it live, obviously it's got to be one thing right over top of
Sure.
the whole song. But in recording, there's recording magic that you can do to
Yeah,
um
you're allowed to cheat a little bit.
a little bit, a little bit.
Yeah,
There's no AI.
yeah, that's true.
um,
That's true.
but but there are studio and engineering and editing techniques, and yeah, I've had to punch in certain places. More so than punching in, I'll just do several different. I'll sing, and then I'll sing it again, and then I'll sing it again, and then I'll sing it again, and then
Yeah,
I'll be like this line, and I'll just be like, all right, I'm
sure.
building like the
Yeah,
main thing, and this part sucked, but this on this take it sounded better, and I moved that up to the main vocal.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to do it. I think because you don't have to worry about every sound starting like because for me when I was punching in, it sounded like I was punching it. It sounded like I was starting fresh every time, and it sounded really unnatural. It was like, here comes a line, and here comes a line, instead of the lines flowing into each other the way they should if you were singing it, you know,
Right,
as a
right.
whole.
And you have to make sure, I mean, if the waveform does not line up correctly, if it's not hitting the 0 point,
Yeah,
it's you're going to hear that you are going to hear that punch in.
yeah,
You're going to hear that little blip.
yeah. All right, let's see. What else do I want to ask you? I was curious that the title of the song, Half Life, did not appear really in the song. I would have thought when I saw it at first, I thought it was going to be a prominent, Half Life, Half Life. Tell me about your Half Life. There wasn't
Right.
any moment like that. Clearly, the idea was there, the representation of the not knowing
Mhm.
when the midpoint of your life was, which I think is a very poetic, kind of existential thought of, we might have hit the midpoint at 10, you might have hit it at 20, you might have hit it at 30. You don't know when your card's going to be called until it's called, and then it's too late to go back and do your midlife crisis, right? Do whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, actually, the working title of the song was not Half Life. It was called Reckoning, because
Okay,
I mean, I knew it was going to be something about me being introspective and having to do with reaching a perceived midlife. Um, and then I started thinking about all the things that you think about when you're writing a song like this. Um, but yeah, I think that was the part that really nailed it for me, is like when you're thinking about this, it's like, well, grief. I don't know. I mean, if I got hit by a car tomorrow and died, my half life was 20 some odd years ago,
sure.
rather than right now, and nobody knows until, like, really, until you're on your deathbed, until you're fading out from this world. You don't absolutely know when that's going to be. So, and I guess it put that sense of, it doesn't matter. Don't wait to do things, because you don't know when it's going to be. And even if I have another 50 years left in this life, um, heading into my 90s, I don't know if I'm going to have the mental or the physical capacity to do certain things then.
Sure.
So to keep holding off because of certain things like stability, and I it's kind of a silly thing to do. Go out there and enjoy. Enjoy life. There's too much misery going on right now. Enjoy what you can, you know,
Yes, I
and and tr-
agree.
and try to find happiness, but also understanding that, I think some people also, um, they're misguided, like they're pleasure seeking, and they misinterpret that for happiness. And true happiness is a state of mind. It's not pleasure.
That's
Pleasures are fleeting. Pleasure is momentary. It doesn't last. Happiness is a state of mind.
Pay attention, kids. He's spitting truth here. I think especially in this era of screens and of instant gratification and of wanting the next dopamine hit, to find something, I don't know. One thing I've talked about before on this show is the urge to create. Do you think if something happened tomorrow, if you got hit in the head in just the right spot and you couldn't write songs anymore, you lost your hands, or I don't know what, let's forget about the hypothetical, would you create in another way? Or is there something special about music, do you think? Because for me, kind of, I feel like if music was taken away, I would shift into something else. And not easily, I would miss music, but I need to create. I need to do something. It's
I,
almost
I
like it's evolutionary.
I think I would try to find a way to make music work,
Yeah. Okay.
whatever that might be. Adapt, and it would be interesting to see how the music would change.
Sure. That's a good point.
Um, but I think, I do have certain, whether it be poetry, whether it be painting, there are other outlets that I have create, you know, creative wise. I look at music as like it's my therapy, and I haven't done it in a while, but I like to do like landscape Bob Rossi type paintings.
Okay.
And to me, that's kind of like that's the Zen state. That is the um, meditation. Whereas music is more of almost more of a therapy. Now, I
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, because there is a sense like when I'm recording and I'm laying guitar tracks down, there is that meditation and that Zen like flow state that you can get into when you're actually laying tracks down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to lose. I don't know. It's when you really know that you're in the zone when you lose time. When you look up and
Absolutely.
you've
Yes.
you've gotten
Yes.
the work done, and so you know that you were doing something, but you look up and an hour has passed, and it's like, where did that hour go?
Right.
Yeah. Uh, One of my favorite lines in here, but this well of wishes has long gone stale. The desire is my suffering, and is my suffering, and the price I now pay. Is that a general disillusionment with growing old? Like if I don't know if I'm not going to try to sum up the song in one line, but to me that was a line that was really central to the theme of the song. That
Yes.
because the
I
wishing
think
well's the wishing well's a great image, a great idea, and the idea of a stale wishing well. I can smell it.
right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that was from the idea, like what I was thinking about when I wrote it is if I never had the desire to want to play music live again, and that's really what it came through. And being able, like, the desire for it and longing for it, the desire itself. And they say in Buddhism, Buddhism is like desire is the source of all suffering. When you desire something, it's a lack of something, and it's going to cause you to suffer.
Yep.
um, Even if it's in your own head, it is going to cause you to suffer. But just wanting something so much that you can't do right now, it's the suffering. And not being able to, whether, like I said, obligations, responsibilities, time, um, the things that pull you away from that, it will stagnate you.
Yeah. All right, man. Our hour is basically up. I've got about 25 more questions that I could ask you. I'm scrolling through my notes here, but we had a really nice conversation. I think you're a very thoughtful songwriter. I think we should have more songwriters like you. I really dig this song. And
Appreciate it.
yeah, all the success that you're having, I think you deserve, man. And I hope it keeps going for you.
Awesome. Well, I thank you, Bluebeard.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. We are going to be out in three, two, one.